Alright, out the gate, I just want to say that this one's going to be a bit different than previous years for a couple of reasons. First of all, my actual top 10 list lacks a bit of oomph compared to previous years. I played a lot of good games, but I didn't play any, real amazing games, and it feels weird to put in a bunch of effort and drama to build up a list of games that only peaks at, the 4 out of 5 range. Second, I'm getting started on this a bit later than I usually do, since I've been out of town for the holidays for a few weeks. And I have bigger fish I want to fry right now, so I'll be first drafting this and probably just using all the first takes in this voiceover. Also, this isn't in the script, but I am also using a new mic recording setup thing. It's a lot easier on my end, so let me know how it sounds. Just genuinely let me know if it sounds significantly worse or anything, because if I could use this full-time, it'd be awesome. Third of all, 3 of my top 5 games, I already have made videos on them, so I have nothing else to say about them. And my number 1 game is fucking Bloodborne, and I do not need to explain why Bloodborne is my game of the year. Lastly, I want to take a few minutes to talk about life plans and stuff while we're on the theme of years changing over, but I'll save that for the end so the people who are only here for the video game opinions can get what they want and leave with ease. So just for parody, here's my top 10 list of the year. In terms of multiplayer stuff, which I exclude from the top 10 list for reasons, I've played a lot of Apex Legends and Team Fortress 2, both of which I found new reasons to appreciate this year, and, at least in my opinion, have naturally improved my skills in while still having fun with them. I'm not going to say much more than that, though, since there's videos on them either already out or in the works. Now, I'm just going to kind of ramble about games I've played in 2023, mostly in rough order of how much I have to say about them. This isn't a definitive list by any means, it's just the stuff I want to talk about that I probably won't have an opportunity to do so anywhere else. Dead Island is a game that started off pretty fun and unique, but very quickly became mind-numbing as they failed to introduce new mechanics or ideas or enemy types, really. Everything kind of just felt the exact same past the first 4 hours. Even when playing with friends, I was just begging for it to get to the end of it. It became clear by the second act that pretty much everything is pointless, substanceless, directionless, once the charm of, wow, new video game wears off. Soda Drinker Pro is a quote-unquote game with not a lot going on, seemingly, but for whatever fucking reason, there is a hidden side game in one of the levels that is so, needlessly complex and confusing and labyrinthian that I somehow come out impressed and appreciative of how bold the developer is. Getting Over It with Benny Foddy, Getting Over It with Funny Bennett Foddy, I'm not keeping that. Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, since it came out, has always felt a little mislabeled by the internet to me. I always found it pretty therapeutic when I played it, and it was pretty clear that most people who played it online kind of had the point of it all fly over the heads, either because it made for better content or because they just genuinely couldn't digest what was spoken to them. But after actually beating it for the first time this year, I realized how easy it is once you get past the first third or so, and also how ham-fisted the messaging is. You could easily get the same message and similar game feel from other and better games, and I don't think it's particularly good at being a rage game either, since, well, it wasn't really truly designed to be one. Like most people, I've been playing Minecraft fairly consistently since I was a kid, but it wasn't until this year that I tried committing to doing more than just getting settled into the endgame and then dropping the world entirely. While attempting my first large-scale build, I realized just how behind I am compared to a lot of people when it comes to my ability to build, which is all I really care about in Minecraft, and I'm hoping that in the future I can improve at it and make something large-scale that I can be thoroughly proud of. Papers, Please was honestly a little disappointing to me after hearing talk about it for years. My main issue is that once you get used to the rules and enter a bit of a flow state, probably around halfway through your first playthrough, it becomes way more forgiving and easy than I was expecting. To be fair, information games tend to be ones that I'm best at, but it really felt like they just stopped trying to throw curveballs at you entirely after a certain point. I do appreciate what it does, though. Its atmosphere is awesome, and it was definitely a fun time. I even got all the achievements. I just felt like it could have done a lot more with its premise, both narratively and gameplay-wise. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Zombies was so much better than I thought it would be when I was first asked to help with doing the Easter eggs. My experience with Call of Duty as a whole is pretty limited, and the most I ever seen of zombies as a kid was just town survival, which I didn't and still don't really get the appeal of. But the Easter eggs aren't just like finding funny secrets, so much as they are like insane map-wide puzzle hunt adventures with so many cool mechanics and features, made with so much genuine love and passion that most AAA experiences entirely lack. It's a very specific gameplay experience that no other game really does that I'd love to see more of, with my only complaints being some inconsistencies with how many players are required and how intuitive the steps are, and the fucking price point, because Jesus Christ, Activision, what are you doing? You are still charging full price for games that are over a decade old. Fallout New Vegas is an absolute cult classic, so of course at some point I had to give it a try, and while I definitely see why people like it so much, I wouldn't say it even comes close to the best in any given category for me. I've tried to form a conclusive and concise opinion on it, but all I could really come up with is this would be an absolutely amazing game if it was finished and not based on Fallout 3. At its peaks, New Vegas is absolutely amazing, but it also has just as many flaws that mix together into a game that I just feel so mixed on. I have many stray thoughts, but I'll try to keep things short and just list off the most important points. At times, the writing is absolutely brilliant, but other times it feels very held back by the devs trying too hard to uphold the no side is truly right or wrong, in spite of the characters who own slaves and the characters who want to nuke everyone they disagree with. I felt the main questline was a bit pointless and unsatisfying, with none of the major factions really being ones that I want to help, and the combat was mindless at best and pretty rough at worst. I understand the idea behind all the main factions being bad, but like, come on man, that just does not make me engaged, that makes me bored. Dead Money was the best part of the entire game, and I will die on that hill. There are many things in this game that feel utterly unfinished and or untested. Certain key locations are obnoxiously vast and empty, like the Boomer's Airfield and Freeside. Speech as a skill is just way too strong, but even if it wasn't, by endgame you can reach every important skill threshold anyways and become a master of all. 3 out of 5, good game, would recommend. I just don't think it's a masterpiece. Cruelty Squad is an amazing breath of fresh air that throws all modern conventions out the window and kind of builds up its own identity from the ground up. I feel like too many people focus on the art style as the main appeal of the game, but it's just that, an art style. Most of what I loved about the game came independently from unconventional visuals. It's super open-ended with tons of different weapons and augmentations that allow for a ton of different strategies to come forth, and after you're done with the main story, going for all the collectibles, hidden levels, and endings is tons of fun, and I'm sure if you're into speedrunning that'd be tons of fun too. It's not really my thing though. The writing is great, with quips that are both entertaining and fit the world really well. My only real complaint is that there's some balance issues with specific weapons and especially augmentations. Like, the Grapendix trivializes so many levels and it can be acquired at pretty much any point in the game since its only unlock requirement is money. And the armor-piercing weapons, which there aren't many of, are damn near required for any level with golems or mechs. For anyone who enjoys shooters and doesn't mind a learning curve, you should absolutely seriously check out Cruelty Squad. Not as a funny meme game, but like genuinely good and mechanically interesting shooter. Slayers X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer, yes, Vengeance, not Vengeance, is a boomer shooter that is essentially emulating what a Y2K middle schooler's passion project Doom mod would be if it was fully realized. That is a hyper-specific description, but I promise you it is entirely accurate. New metal soundtrack, poop fart sewer jokes, bad one-liners, poor grammar, and lore that only a child would think is cool. If this sounds like the worst thing you ever heard of, stick with me. The middle schooler design philosophy isn't coming from like the real-world developers, but a character within a universe. The main narrative isn't the stupid campy story about killing the evil guys using your cool guy powers, it's the subtle clues as to what's going on through the mind of Zane, the in-universe developer and protagonist. I won't say too much, but it's a super interesting and subtle way of storytelling that I thought was super fun and creative. Plus the game itself is actually pretty solid, with tons of love and polish and detail put into it. It's definitely not for everyone, but if you're someone who gets down on deep and subtle character analysis while still finding journey into your butthole funny, this is a very, very good time. Or, just that second thing works too. That's it for the game stuff. Feel free to kill my viewer retention now. Reflecting specifically on my YouTube content over the course of 2023, I feel pretty good about it overall, actually. In terms of how much main content I put out, it was pretty similar to previous years, but I've been improving in small ways, and I definitely earned the slow growth, I feel, with each normal video outperforming the last, more or less. I still wish I could put out videos faster, but given that I do not make money off of this, I feel like I could excuse it. As for my experimental content, I felt like this year was much better and more in line with what my channel is about compared to previous years, and I've come to terms with the fact that no matter how much I try, I am just incapable of not putting in effort. And basically every video style, besides the With6 and the Sonic Media video that I swear is gonna be a series at one point, has been an attempt at making easier videos, like lower effort content. I mean, it makes sense, at least from my perspective. I make these videos out of passion, and I'm likely not gonna have another chance to talk about the things I do, so I kind of feel obligated to make them something I'm proud of. With that in mind, it makes sense that the best way of making videos lower effort is smaller scope if I don't want to spend less time editing or on scripts or whatever. Hence the new Lavender Banner series that I will not be bothering to say the full name of. It takes no more than a couple days to put one out, and I get to gush about an indie game and maybe give it a tiny bit of traction, and because they're not even 5 minutes long, it's pretty much impossible for my perfectionism to turn it into a month-long ordeal. On top of that, it's lower stakes, which makes it hurt a little bit less when the video absolutely tanks, which I mean they're more likely to do just because of how the YouTube algorithm works with both niche topics and videos that are shorter than a channel's typical range. Of course, I am historically not the best at keeping things short and sweet, since again, if I'm talking about it on this channel, it's because I have a lot of passion for it, but hopefully the nature of the series keeps me in line. Now, there's two elephants in the room in terms of my content in 2023. In the first half of the year, I released my biggest video ever in pretty much every measurable way. What the hell is Team Fortress 2 and why should you care? At the time, it was a big enough deal that I was getting actual panic attacks thinking about how this could change my future, but in retrospect, it really didn't change anything. For sure, it is the biggest video by a mile, and it over tripled my sub count, and I'm really grateful for that, but it didn't push me into any new territory overall. It's like buffing a low tier in a game enough for them to go from the bottom of their respective tiers to the top of their respective tier. Sure, it's nice, but they're still in the same tier at the end of the day. I'll use this as a segue into my current employment status, or rather lack thereof. I will always be making these videos out of passion, but I won't be able to put my full weight into it if I can't pay the bills. I did some research this year as to the viability of YouTube as a job, and while I knew it was a crapshoot, I didn't realize just how much of a crapshoot it was. I shouldn't even be considering full-time until I've hit 6 figures. Channels blow up overnight all the time, sure, but relying on that is like relying on a slot machine to pay out. I don't like that I only put out one amazing video every year with a small handful of decent ones to support it. And I have so many ideas that I wish I could follow up on. I have 4 or 5 scripts in the works just right now, all of which would be top tier as far as my own content goes, but I do not have the resources to make that happen as it stands. Why do I bring this all up? Mostly just to get it off my chest, really. I don't expect things to change just because I complain about it on the internet. You could also argue that because I've been chronically unemployed that I have more time to work on videos, but it's not as easy as that, but I'll save that for the end. I still have the other elephant I want to mention, which is my new shared Let's Play channel, which this absolute abomination has been so much fun to work towards. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's essentially a Let's Play channel that's co-owned by me and 3 of my friends, where we follow every stupid impulse we have with no stakes and no expectations. Pretty much the only rule we set for ourselves is following the upload schedule. Some of you may know that I used to post Let's Play style videos on this channel, but it didn't feel nearly as good, and they've been since unlisted. The numbers on them were always pretty bad since it was so different from what I normally post, and the fact that I was the only consistent face made it hard for a cohesive vibe to develop. Plus, I didn't really like being the main character, so to speak, of what is ultimately a communal effort, and behind the scenes it's also kinda awkward trying to rally together a bunch of people who don't care about making content into making something that I specifically can be proud of. With the Sluice channel, it's 4 specific people chosen beforehand to fit a specific vibe, all of whom enjoy making content, all with equal stakes. There's no main character, everyone is just as passionate about the project as I am, and it's just a really cool feeling to have. This might be a bit of a niche comparison, but it's like going from those school projects where everyone but you only cares about getting a passing grade and nothing more, to starting a real-ass musical band where everyone is into it and wants it to keep going, and the end results are a reflection of a bunch of people's ideas and personalities instead of just one ringleader's. There's also benefits if I'm focusing on a big project or dealing with life stuff, I don't have to worry about meeting deadlines because the project doesn't rely on me alone. If there's some major error with the video, the channel's sense of humor allows for it to be of no concern. We can experiment to our heart's content and make self-indulgent jokes that we know won't land for anyone who isn't us. And our humor from the get-go is so specific and niche that chasing numbers in any way other than being ourselves is a fool's errand. So it's a really liberating feeling that makes me excited to keep working on it, even though the whole point is to be easy and low effort. I don't know, I'm just really proud of what we've done so far. Speaking of having emotions, time for my viewer retention to dip again. I'm gonna do some personal reflection that's more truly personal. Every time I look at the videos I put out, I feel a little guilty at how often I put out update videos, but I've ultimately come to accept that my emotions are a big part of why I'm on this platform in the first place, and I think it's important to talk openly about mental health struggles in a mature and calm way. It's no secret by now that I'm pretty mentally ill, and that's not going away anytime soon. Getting a job for me isn't as easy as applying for everything I'm qualified for until something works out. I have a history with entry-level jobs since, well, that's all I'm qualified for, barring magically making friends with a large-scale content creator who requires extra help. I have a hard time even considering a lot of the jobs, minimum wage especially, since I know how much it affects my mental health. Even in the best case where I find a decent paying job that doesn't treat me like I'm disposable, just having to be somewhere at a consistent time every day and being expected to perform well every day puts an immense amount of pressure on me mentally. And I often spend most of my free time in bed or mindlessly scrolling social media trying to recuperate from that, leading to only a handful of hours per week where I can manage to muster enough energy to do errands, chores, and meaningfully engage in my hobbies. But on the opposite side of the same coin, I've discovered that not having income has put a lot of stress on me as well, and it only gets worse as my savings drain more and more over time. So the end result, at least in terms of progress towards my hobbies, is similar amounts of work being done whether I'm employed or not. So I'm definitely going to be taking this whole job search thing more seriously this year, and I can afford it because, to be blunt, my mental health has been the most stable it's ever been as of recent, which has been pretty awesome. This is thanks to moving out of my suck-ass hometown to one that's a lot less scary for queer people to merely exist in. Freeing myself from what was essentially a mental health prison has been immense for getting some serious work done on my mentals. Admittedly, it took a lot longer than expected to get used to the new environment, but I think I'm finally ready to start getting some work done in the physical world. Well, I was ready in around November, but I put it off for about a month because I knew I'd be killing momentum around the holidays as I visit family for 2 weeks. I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. The New Year has always just been an arbitrary number change to me, but the things have just so happened to line up with my life that in 2023 and hopefully 2024, each of the years have had their own themes, so to speak. Last year was finding safety, and I think this year will be finding balance. We'll see how long I keep up this momentum, but I've been making a point to exercise and practice guitar daily, as well as pushing myself to do things that stress me out on a more regular basis, like driving or meeting with friends in real life, and to an admittedly lesser degree, making new connections. I'm still figuring out what my limits are, but I am, of course, trying my best not to push myself too hard and am giving myself days off. Once I find a job, I'll definitely be trying to find more balance when it comes to content creation as well. I've never liked how inconsistent my upload schedule is, and I know an entirely predictable schedule, like the first of every month or every other Thursday, isn't right for me either. But I'm sure I can find some sort of middle ground where the gap between the videos always feels warranted based off their scopes. That'll come with time, as will many other things, but for the first time in a while, I feel strong enough to actively work towards these goals over the course of weeks or months. From where I'm standing, my goals are no longer foggy, hand-wavy ideas that future me will have to figure out, but like actual, tangible stops on the path of this mountain I'm climbing. No more running, I can do this, I am the girl in the mirror, and other Celeste references. Special thanks to anyone who stuck around to hear this bit. I wouldn't have gotten as far as I have without people like you. And an extra special thanks to Copper, Ayn, ISO, Franz, Ryan, and a bunch of other people I'm betting aren't watching this video. To the future, I'm excited for what you bring. And to everyone, friends, family, fans, and haters, I hope to see you soon, more alive than ever.